Hello everyone, this is Yalda from Eat, Burn, Sleep, the online low inflammation, gut health and sustained weight loss platform. If you follow me on my social media, you probably know that I love learning, discovering new things, meeting passionate individuals. So I have decided to launch this podcast where I interview amazing people. We're going to be talking about physical health, mental health, well-being, with people who are passionate about what they do and who strive for excellence. I hope you learn from it and you enjoy it. Let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Eat, Burn, Sleep podcast. I'm sitting here with my friend, the beautiful Paola Diana. Hi Paola, how are you?
Hi Yalda, I'm very well, thank you, despite the horrible moment that we're all living. But all good.
Yes, and which seems like it might carry on for a while. So Paola is Italian. You can look at her photo. She's a beautiful woman. And Paola is an activist, a writer, an entrepreneur, and someone who really cares about women's rights. You also have a podcast called The Game Changers. So Paola, tell us a little bit about how you started your journey. So you studied in Bologna and then went into politics?
Yes, exactly. So my journey is very diversified. I actually started in Padua, in the northeast of Italy, where I was born. But Padua was too little for me. I couldn't wait to have my own life, to live alone, doing university. So I went to Bologna and I studied political science, and then I took a master degree in institutional relations. I took a master degree, of course, because I love to study, but also because I sent almost 1,000, I think, CVs, after my bachelor degree, and no one even replied to me. And you know why? Because at the time I was already a mother. I had my 2 children when I was young, when I was 24 and then 26. And then for the Italian standards at the time, that was too much. So, I wasn't suitable for a job because I had 2 young kids to take care of. Of course, I didn't care about that. I thought I will make it. I want to work. I want to be financially independent. And that's why I started studying again. And at the time, one of my professors saw my value. He understood that I was capable, and he gave me the opportunity to work as a stage for, I remember, 200 euros per month.
Wow.
So it was like nothing. But of course, for me, it was like gold. I was so happy. And he gave me the opportunity to work for the electoral campaign of the former president of the European Commission, Romano Prodi. And it was a beautiful journey because I learned so much. So definitely, the value of the job wasn't really the money, but it was the knowledge, the connections that I made. I could learn from people who were highly talented, all the intellects, of Italy at the time. They were all helping Prodi to win. And then we won the elections. And then we started a school for the Democratic Party that at the time wasn't even born in Italy. And it was fantastic because, it was a sort of think tank and a school for people who wanted to know more about political science, about what is, a Democratic Party, why we thought we needed a Democratic Party in Italy. And I was organizing everything with my 2 little kids. I remember I was working during the week, and then during the weekends we actually had the lessons. So I had to, organize and go there, be there, in presence, because I had the professors coming from all parts of Italy, students coming from everywhere. And so I used to go there with my kids, they used to eat with us, in the big hall.
That's amazing.
It was really fascinating. It was a good time. Unfortunately, then, for other reasons, it ended. And then I decided to start my journey as an entrepreneur. Because I tried to be an employee of one of the professors I was working for at the time, my political, activity. But it was a miserable life, I tell you the truth, because he's seriously miserable. I mean, he was bullying me, he was bullying other people. it was very hard for, few little money. He pretended we stay there, until late during the night with no, we didn't know in advance what to do. And I spoke with all my colleagues at the time, and it was like they were all, enslaved by this man. They had to stay there because they had no other choices, and they didn't have good contracts, so they didn't have maternity leave, holiday paid, as it was my contract as well. So I had the idea of funding, my own company, and even though it was very risky, of course, I had no certainties whatsoever. But I thought, Paola, you better do it, So I started working during the night. So during the day, I was keep working there to have my salary. Wow. And then during the night, when my kids were to bed, I started writing the text for the website. And then I had the right suppliers, to build the websites, because I learned that when I was in politics, and I hired them. And I made, my website, and then only with the help of a friend, we started, spreading the word. And we had our first clients. And then everything started.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you explain to the listeners what your company does?
Yes, of course. So my company is in recruitment. We do also headhunting for specific roles, and we are really, really in a niche market because we do recruitment for the household, and also for secretarial staff, but mainly household and childcare. Of course, our clientele is a high-profile clientele because there are people who can afford, this type of, help and support. And everything started because I needed a British nanny for my kids because I wanted to raise them bilingual. Mm-hmm. So everything started from the need of a mother, who believed in the importance of English. Because in Italy at the time wasn't so, important, unfortunately, and it wasn't taught at school. But I knew already that I wanted to raise my children in an international environment, because I always thought about myself as a citizen of the world, and I wanted them to be able to travel, to work in other countries, and they're still thanking me for that. And so I needed a British nanny. I couldn't find one in Italy because it was impossible. And then I thought, what? There is a need in the market. I would be, the one who brings the answer, who will give the offer. And then, people started also asking me different type of stuff. At the beginning, the first 2 years, I was reluctant. So I was saying, no, we can't, because I was still working part-time, being also a mother. But then I thought, as an entrepreneur, you're crazy if you don't, offer what they want because you have the clients. This is the most precious thing, in being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then I started growing and hiring new people and, enlarging our database. And now I'm really happy because we are one of the leading, companies in the sector. We have clients everywhere in the world. I opened, my company also in London 6 years ago. So all is going well.
Amazing. Your story is incredibly inspiring, and there's so many things you have spoken about, which I find extremely interesting. So the first one is how shocked I am to hear that 20 years ago, 15 years ago in Italy, a woman with children would find it difficult to find a job.
Yeah.
Is it still the case today?
I tell you the truth, Yalda, it's still the case. Maybe not as much as before, because of course now women tend to have children later on. But I heard voices about, friends and friends of friends who go to, these interviews. And the boss tells them, are you fiancé? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have children soon? This is completely non-acceptable, of course, because
Absolutely.
This should be, a personal choice. It shouldn't dictate the outcome of your, job interview. They still do that. And to a friend of mine, I remember at the time, a few years ago, this HR manager told her straight on her face, if you're going to have a child in the next 2 years, I will put you to clean the staircase.
Oh my goodness.
Unbelievable.
The thing is, when people do things like this, whether it is a small boss or HR person, they're actually damaging society as a whole because women are half the workforce.
Yes.
It means that you're undermining half the power that society has to go forwards.
Yeah.
These people, yes, create harm in such women's lives, but they create even more harm, as far as I'm concerned, on a general, for the general interest and the general public.
Yeah.
Because the more interesting, intelligent people are part of the workforce, the more we will go forward as a society.
Absolutely.
The other thing you've mentioned, which I think will resonate with a lot of the listeners, is how a single person, namely your boss, can make your life absolutely miserable and lower your entire quality of life, no matter where you live, no matter what you studied, no matter how much money there is on your bank account.
Yes, absolutely.
I have witnessed this a couple of times in my life. The first time was I was young and I wanted to do a little job, just for pocket money, and I was a student in Paris. I worked in a shop on Rue de Passy in the 16th arrondissement, which is the posh, one of the nice areas in Paris. And there was a store manager who was an absolute bully, who would never tell the girls at what time they had their lunch break, so you didn't know if you were going to eat at 11, 12, 1, 2, or 3 p.m. You weren't allowed to sit down, you had to wear heels all the time, makeup. And I did the job. I decided to finish my contract for the experience. I put myself through it. But it was really an eye-opener because the girls who worked there had tragic stories in their lives and needed those jobs. So they had this person bullying them every day. It was abuse.
Yeah, abuse, 100%.
And then many years later, when I was working in banking, and I'm not going to mention which bank, I was really happy where I was until someone who had lost their job in that bank, who had moved to another bank, and then lost the job in that very famous institution, everyone would recognize the name if I was to say it, and came back to the institution where he had started, where I worked. And he had to come right down the bottom because he became a global head of everything. So he became my direct boss. I was a junior. Because he had a bit of anger due to his own history, and I think he was just a bully. This man was just a bully. He made my life miserable.
Oh, that's
I
terrible.
worked in foreign exchange. I used to start at 6:30 in the morning. He would arrive leisurely at 9, but would make me stay until 9, 10 p.m. So my hours were 6:30. Within a couple of months, I gained a stone. My quality of life deteriorated so fast.
Yes.
And I thought, it's incredible. This is what happens because of one person. I changed jobs. I went to another bank because I thought to myself, my health comes before anything. I need to sleep. I need to exercise. I'm clearly not allowed. But it got me to think about inefficiencies in the workplace.
There's so many.
How you end up being someone who brings a lot of value to a company because you have an abusive direct boss, you end up leaving. And this is such a common thing, which is very hard for people above that person to spot.
Yes, you're right. That's why we need, I think, offices for complaints, anonymous complaints as well, inside every industry, I think, inside every company, because it's important that people feel free to tell the truth, to explain how much, they are abused in the workplace, because these stories are actually very, very common. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen it around my friends, with people I've worked with. It's that one person can make your entire life miserable. You don't sleep enough. You don't eat at the right time.
Terrible.
You don't exercise. It changes everything.
Yeah. And also I noticed that everything comes from the male type of leadership, in a male-dominated industry. But unfortunately, a few women who can get at the top, if they don't use their femininity and their empathy, they can become worse than men. In this, because they try to imitate them.
Yes.
And they try to imitate their bad, attitude and leadership, but that is completely wrong. So I heard about a lot of, women leaders who maybe, had to sacrifice a lot to get at the top. And then they were very mean with, other women under them who actually maybe, had to jiggle with their life, balance. They had children. It's very sad. It's very sad. That's why I always think, and I always say, when I talk, that we need a new type of leadership, specifically tailored on, the values that women tend to cherish the most, in generally speaking, of course, not every single woman in the world, of course, but generally, we tend to be more caring, we tend to be, more empathic, we tend to care, we tend to listen more. And this is what personally I try to do, in my company. First of all, I hire women. I hire single mothers, because I'm a single mother as well. I got divorced very early. And I maintain my children. I started very early to do that, and I'm proud of that. And I think I'm very responsible also because of that. And I can see it, in this single mother that I hire, they would do everything to maintain their job and to feed their children. I think they are very multitasking. They're very responsible, and I feel that I can trust them. They're not volatile. They're not jumping from one job to the other. That is something that I don't really like, because I understand that to be good and really succeed in a company, you need a certain amount of years, working for the same company, because you create knowledge, connections, and are all, valuable. So I strongly, support women, and I think that actually maternity is an added value. So I do the opposite of what they do in Italy. And I hope one day they will understand that, that having children is not bad for women in business. It's actually, an added value. It's like having a master. It's like having a master degree, in motherhood.
Yes.
That's what I think. And also I try to listen. I try to listen to, to my employees. I try to understand for what they tell me, and it's not that I change my mind all the time only because they ask me something, but I truly and generally listen, and I try to understand their point of view. And I want to make the workplace, a better place for them. Like now, as an example with the COVID-19 crisis, we left our offices because they told me, after a few months, I wanted them to come back, to go back working as usual, as before. And then they opened my eyes. They told me, Paola, we are actually happy to work from home because our commute is too long. We waste, 1 hour, maybe 1 hour and a half on the tube, on the buses, and we could use that time much wiser, in a much wiser way, for our family, to go to the gym, to do something, maybe a walk. And I thought about that, and actually I listened to them.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, coming back on this point, my view over the long run, and I might be completely mistaken, but I think there's a lot to be said for face-to-face interaction. I never brainstorm the same way on Zoom or on the phone as I would do face-to-face. I think we are enjoying right now the beauty of working remotely, to be able, maybe one day travel and still work, which I do for Eat, Burn, Sleep, because my team is not in the UK and we all work remotely. But I think there will, in the future, work will probably be a mix of remote and then getting together for some quality time.
I agree with you. Yeah, when this pandemic will end, hopefully soon, I think it would be a good idea to have a mix.
Yeah.
So to meet maybe once or twice per week, have meetings, work together in the same environment, but then, eventually with flexible hours.
Yeah.
The important thing, I think, is to see the results, not to think about how many hours you were sitting on the bloody desk.
I agree. FaceTime, no one needs that.
So that's the idea,
So, Paola, I have many more questions about what you've done since and the books you've written, your podcast, but I would like to understand what in your childhood or your upbringing has given you such a drive and such vision. You said you come from a small town, traditional Italian, Catholic, a bit misogynist setup.
Yes.
What has given you the vision to have a step back on everything and to see further all the possibilities that were open for you?
Yes, it's a good question, Yalda, because I think everything started in my childhood. Definitely. And when I was a child, I was crying about that. I was really suffering. I think I was almost depressed, I tell you the truth, even though it's not in my personality. But it was so tough, my daily life in my family, because my father was really abusive. It was very controlling. It was manipulative. He couldn't stand me not doing what he wanted. He couldn't stand me coming home 5 minutes later. I was terrified by my father. Terrified is the right word to use. And my brother wanted to imitate my father. My brother is older than me. So I had him as well as kind of a guardian, can you imagine? And my mother, on top of that, she wanted to stay with him. I begged her to divorce when I was a teenager. And she told me, no, I would stay with with your father, you know, because she was used to it. She was, I think, identifying with him. And then after I left, after I studied, and I'm blessed I could study a lot, and I'm still studying by myself, you know, I learned about the syndrome, you know, of the woman who is actually identifying with the abuser. And these are all dynamics that happen in a family. It's very important that people know that. So many times the abused person, the victim, tends to deny. So many people, they are in complete denial. And others tend to identify with the abuser. So they protect him, especially if he's a man. They justify him.
Interesting.
Because violent men, and I'm not only talking about physical violence, I'm talking also about psychological and emotional violence, because they're all connected. After they have their rage, you know, their hunger, comes out, they actually are very sad. And they always tell you, I'm sorry. They cry, they beg you to pardon them. They beg you to forgive. So I never forget my father, never. My mom was always forgetting him, of course. So this is the fact, you know, I think I was born stronger than anyone in my family. Maybe wiser, I think so, actually. And I always thought I was adopted, I tell you the truth. And I wasn't fitting the victim role. So they were even more upset, you know, because I wasn't the victim crying, you know, and saying, oh, sorry, I would do what you want, you know. They couldn't break me. I was always telling what I wanted. I was always, you know, using my independent thinking.
Amazing.
And I think it's amazing now, but I tell you the truth, it was really hard. It was really hard because, you know, many times I thought, oh my God, you know, what will happen to me? And, but I was, this is my nature. So I made it. When I was 19, I went out. And since then, I'm very much happier. And then I decided I would have spent my life helping other women. That's my passion in life, and that's my mission, you know, because I thought, you know, I need to help also other women who maybe are not so strong, you know, mentally and physically as I am. But I care for them. And I don't think we should all be strong and successful, you know. I think actually, especially people who got the most from life, they should give back the most. Mm-hmm. That's what drives me. And then I, you know, working in politics, I experienced the boys' club.
Yes.
It was fascinating. Yes. Fascinating, because all my professors, you know, they were all so connected among them with all the other top people in Italy. And it was so easy for them to pick up the phone and ask for, you know, a role in a CDA or somewhere in a board, you know, of a super big company. And they could talk about money easily. They could recommend each other easily. They found friends coming to talk to their events. And I was always looking, thinking, where are the women? Where are the women? And I was always arguing all the time. Thank God the president of the association, he was kind of my mentor, and he's an amazing person, an amazing professor, Filippo Andreatta. And he was actually, he wasn't mad at me, but every day I was telling him, we have to do something. We have to change things. And one day he was like, Paola, you know, and he's a good man. He was telling me, Paola, honestly, I don't know them. I don't know these women. You know, if you want, try to invite them. And I said, I would do that. So I took, the numbers from the internet and I called these, famous women, like, an economist or a writer. And I was introducing myself and I was like, listen, I need a speaker, to talk at this event. Can you please come?
Brilliant.
I was right. Yeah. I mean, and I tell you the truth, they were coming. They were happy that I called them. So I showed them, that actually if you put some effort, you find these women, because there are amazing women among us, scientists, economists, politicians, authors. You just need to find them. You have to get out from the mentality of the boys' club.
But it is changing. I can see in my children, it is definitely changing. Thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God for that.
I think what actually makes what makes people do the switch, what creates a change, is to have a strong mother who respects men and women.
Yes.
And who sets an example.
You're so right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When my son was small, so I used to work, as you know, on the financial markets. Then I stopped working when the kids were small because I used to work such long hours, travel all the time. And one day, my son William was 4 years old, and he was 3. We were playing a game, and he had to build a house. And at some point, he chose a pink dressing table for his house, which was a castle. And I said to him, "Why are you choosing a pink dressing table?" He said to me, "Because I'm going to need girls to look after me."
I swear.
But when he said that, I said, "You're going to need girls to look after you." I realized I was setting that example. He didn't know that I have 2 master's degrees, that I speak 4 or 5 languages. Yeah. I say 4 or 5 because Farsi comes and goes. 4.5 languages. He didn't know that I had a career before having children. He thought I was only there to serve his dad.
Yeah, I understand what
it was a defining moment which made me realize the only way for my boys to be balanced men, respect women, and treat them in a respectable manner so they can be respected themselves for being good men, is to show them how it should be.
Yes.
And I shouldn't be the house slave.
Leading by example is so important.
That was a major driver in me going back to work, setting up a company. It's one of the main, actually I don't speak about it much on Eat, Burn, Sleep, but it's helping people like you. I went through my own struggle and it inspired me to help people, but also it's because I want to show my children that you can be a friend, you can be a lover, you can be a woman, you can be a mum, and you can be a great worker.
Well done.
It all important. Works together.
Yeah, especially you will see, because the children, they grow up so fast.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. I have 2 children, as you know, and they're already, doing university. It's unbelievable. Actually, my son is going to end university this year.
Oh my God.
I know people, they can't even believe when I say that.
Because you look so young.
Oh, darling, thank you. But, I'm so blessed that I have my own life. I have my interests, my passions. I write, I host podcasts, I'm an entrepreneur. Because if not, your life would be so lonely. The empty nest is a syndrome that really exists,
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking about this, women who spent all their life, only thinking about their children, and then at some point the children, they need to have their own life, they go away. And I think they were tricked, these women, because no one told them that children, they grow up fast.
But also sometimes they also choose it. I had a choice. I could have made that choice.
Yes,
you choose also. Yeah, I know the empty nest syndrome. I remember my mum. After we left the house, one day I rang her. I said, "What are you doing?" She was cooking for the dog.
Yeah, my mother, she used to do the same, yeah.
Which is crazy. So tell me about your book, Save the World. Tell us a little bit more about what it's about, what inspired you to write it?
So I wrote the book after 10 years experience in Italy in the political, arena, and also as an activist, because in Italy I founded my own association. It was a network of all the feminist associations at the time, because I thought we needed a more union, we needed to be united in order to succeed. So we were lobbying for laws in favor of women. And I saw a lot of things. I studied a lot of things. And when I was talking to my friends, I understood that many of them, especially men, they didn't know the things, not because they were mean, just they were, ignoring a lot of facts that were connected with, women's history. And then I decided to write. What I learned. And I called the book with a very bold title, Saving the World, Women, the 21st Century Factor for Change. Because I'm bold. I love boldness. I think we all should be ambitious and direct, because I truly believe that it's not technology and science, the change factor. It is definitely one of them, but the main one are women, and it's women empowerment. So the way women are shaping the society in a new way is unpredicted. It's something unprecedented. It never happened before in history. If we look at the past, 100 years, everything is changing so quickly, because women now, they are demanding a place at the table where, we make decisions. So that's why everything's changing, because before, for centuries, our role was inside the household. That's where they relegated us. And also they weren't giving us access to education or higher education. Everything is changing now, and it's a good thing, because we are now having more talents. And having more talents and diversity also helps the society, itself, and the discoveries we can make. And I truly believe it also helps our children, the way we raise them, the way they can also become better human beings. And so I wrote about a history of religions, all religions, and I showed that actually they were connected by one single thing. And this thing is controlling women's body and sexuality.
Yes, but that's it's always been the
It's
case.
Unbelievable.
Even the standards of beauty.
Yeah.
The little shoes that in Asia women had to wear, the corsets in Europe. Today, women inject their lips, self-mutilate their faces, cut their noses.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
It's crazy.
Yes. So I talk about all of this in the book, going from, the female genital mutilation, or the foot binding in China, or the breast ironing in Cameroon.
Exactly.
The corset, even high heels, the stilettos. And I show that these things are all connected by this fil rouge. And it's impressive, because these religions, they should be all different, but actually they're all the same, because they were all religions that were, I say invented, because I'm sorry, I don't believe in any of them, by men in favor of men. So they were the result of a society that was a patriarchal society. And it's fascinating too. In fact, I truly believe that to our children, we shouldn't teach religion when they're too young. We should teach them history of religions, to open, their minds. And then when they're older, it's good if they want to, study a specific religion. It's fine, but they have the instruments, the intellect to study and not to be brainwashed. Because unfortunately nowadays, we are only, if you say, which is your religion, you should ask which is the religion of your parents. Because this is it. We tend to have the religion of our parents.
It's true.
We're not free to choose anything.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Actually, my parents didn't raise me in a religion, but yes, I know what you mean. Mm. The thing is, in my humble opinion, I think the reason why women have always been controlled around the globe, everywhere, through all these physical, elements of torture, is because women hold the ultimate power, which is the power to create life.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that also gives men the motivation to create history. Because in a way, but this is entirely my opinion. I'm not saying it's the truth.
Curious, yeah.
But I always thought women are a little more content, because the day you have a baby, if you do, it's such an incredible, powerful thing. And even if you don't have a baby, you have the power to have a baby, which a man will never have. So they need to climb mountains, conquer countries, to try and leave a mark, put their name on that baby, to try and leave a mark on this planet.
Yeah, I like this point of view, absolutely.
It's always been, and I have another theory, and please, listeners, be really... no, don't give me hate for this. but since I was a little girl, I always thought that women were smarter and stronger than men, and that for the greater good of society, so we continue having interest in them, we accepted to give them the first role. I always thought of course, I think women should have, access to education, work and everything, but I think that somehow maybe it was a self-protective thing, because I can see with my girlfriends, I would rather be with my girlfriends anytime versus a man.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Of course, maybe you are lucky and you had all these brilliant women. I mean, to be fair, stupidity exists in every gender.
Yes, it does. But I find that as a woman,
I think you're lucky.
Men have. Okay, I'm just saying. Thank God they have willies. Otherwise, we'd all be with women. Okay.
Oh my God.
So let's come back to being more serious.
Yeah.
But actually, just a little quick anecdote. One day, my son JJ said to me, "Mom, why do you exercise all the time? And Daddy only exercises a couple of times a week, but he's stronger than you." My children were quite younger than now. My son Will responded to him, "Because she's part of the human race. Women are less strong physically, but they're more intelligent."
It's funny. The children, I love them. I love them.
So Paola, in your podcast, you interview a series of women. You've interviewed me as well.
Yeah.
So what
even men.
Even men. Okay.
Well, yeah.
So it's about inspiring people who have incredible stories and have.
Yes. My idea was to give light to the stories of change and revenge and, success of all the people that I met. I'm, lucky enough to know, because I thought it was worth telling these stories, because I'm a truly believer that change is what saves us. So change happens, okay? But the majority of people, they fear change.
Yes.
They're scared to death. Mm-hmm. They don't want to change. But they rather prefer staying where they are and keep complaining instead of changing. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, I'm the opposite. So I always embrace change. And then I saw that actually the outcome was even better than what I had in the past. And that's why I want to tell people, and I want to inspire them to embrace it. Don't be scared about the unknown. Yes. Because you can build a more positive lifestyle, you can build a better world just jumping, in the unknown. So you don't need to control all the time everything. It's better to, follow your instinct, follow your gut and change if you're not happy about your present. That's why, as an example, I changed cities quite a lot, and then I decided to move to London. And I tell you the truth, all the time I changed city, I really didn't know anyone in the new city. People thought many times I was doing it for love. Can you imagine? It's so funny. And I was looking at them shocked, and I was like, no, but because I never thought, oh my God, I won't, meet anyone. I always thought, oh my God, how many brilliant people I will meet. How many amazing men I will meet. Yeah, that's my mindset. And it gave me a lot in my life. That's why, I'm rich in connections. I'm rich in positive energy, because I believe in myself. I think that's also the key point to start with. And also, I'm not afraid about change. And I think that if every one of us could do the same, especially in these challenging times, I think we will all be much happier.
Wonderful. I have one more question, actually, about relationships.
Yeah.
So you are working on starting to write a new book.
Exactly.
About marriage and relationships.
Yes.
Could you tell us in a nutshell what it's going to be about?
Yes. So this is my other passion, investigate the institution of marriage. Because I truly believe that it is an old institution that should change as the society changed so much during the past years, especially, as I said before, because the role of the woman changed so much. And so I believe in love. I'm still a romantic person, even if I'm divorced. But I'm interrogating myself. So I have a lot of questions. So my book would be, I think, more about questions than answers, even though I will give my point of view. And I will also interview a few friends anonymously, so they can really tell me the truth. The truth about their own love life and marriages. And I want to go through everything, what is sex for them? What if monogamy is real? If it really exists or is an invention? If marriage can last for 20, 30 years, or if it become a golden prison or maybe a horrible prison. If maybe we need a different type of relationships, for different times of our life. So I have all these interesting questions.
I very much look forward to reading that book.
Yeah, I can't wait to finish it. So far, I'm only at the around 100 pages I wrote, but yeah, I'm actually interviewing and working on it. So you will be one of the first one knowing when it will be published, and then we can talk about this.
Yes, we can have another episode.
Absolutely.
Delving deep into the interviews with people, because it's true that the institution of marriage is nothing today. It's nothing like it was 100 years ago. The world around us is completely changing. People have an incredible amount of choice. We live longer lives. Women work. Marriage is no longer a business deal. It's now a love affair.
Should be. Sometimes it's still a business.
Yes, but it has massively changed.
Yeah.
It used to be between two families or to keep the land in a. And people used to have official lovers. Yeah. Now we have fidelity. It's changed so much.
Yeah. And we have a lot of unhappiness. And also we have a lot of people who feel that they are not good enough, or maybe they're not worthy, or maybe there is something wrong with them. So my book would be a love letter to all of them, telling them you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe there's something wrong with marriage.
Well, we look forward to that. Paola, thank you so much for accepting to be my guest on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. To all the listeners, I will be linking Paola's website. You can go and check out her work, her podcast, her books, and everything she does. Also, I just want to add one little thing. Paola, if you are to see her and meet her, she's an absolute sunshine of energy. One could never tell you've been through everything you've been through. So well done you for keeping the positivity up.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, darling.
Bye. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thank you to all of you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to go on eatburnsleep.com to learn more about gut health and chronic inflammation. I would really appreciate if you could rate this podcast, and of course feel free to share it with anyone who might enjoy it. Have a beautiful day.